From Overwatch World Champions and considered one of the best in Pro Valorant, to being barred due to serious allegations from the esport he loved at the top of his game. Sinatra's pro career has been a roller coaster with more acts than a Shakespearean play, with everyone having their own opinions on him. But I really wanted to dive into how good or possibly overhyped his peak was in Pro Valorant. Was he really one of the best in the game during his prime? Well, I dived into and analyzed his old games during his peak with Sentinels, but also with every other team he played on during his short Valorant career, to extract every stat I could get to see the whole picture of the player Sinatraa used to be. But first, I need you to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you didn't miss videos like this one, as we're so close to 10,000 subscribers and could be the difference maker. Before we can look at Sinatra's prime with Sentinels, we need to look at the player he was before. Before he took the world by storm as a Valorant player, he was considered the best in the world in Overwatch during the esports golden age, becoming a household name after winning the world championship, leading to a huge press run that saw him on Jimmy Fallon in 2019. And it looked like he was at the top of Overwatch after winning the World Cup for America, but only 5 months later, the world looked completely different. COVID locked down everything, ruining his chance to continue the momentum. And pair that with an already declining fan base and a terrible metas that were making the game unwatchable, Sinatraa didn't want to be tied to one game like other esports greats. So when a new first-person hero shooter from Riot was announced, Sinatraa was interested right away. He fell in love with esports to begin with because of the old greats of CSGO before him, and Valorant seemed like the natural successor. So with the slowdown in Overwatch, he jumped ship with a bunch of other top talent to see if they could continue their success in the hot new Valorant. So on April 26th, he officially retired from Overwatch to compete in the brand new game. And this is where our story truly starts with Sinatraa. The next day, Sinatraa announced that he was joining Sentinels to be on the first ever roster in the beta, along with CSGO players Sick and Shahzam, and Zombs who played Overwatch and Apex professionally. But it was clear that all eyes were on him right away as possibly being the biggest player in North America. And during the beta and early ranked ladders before the pro matches even started, he was already picking up where he left off in Overwatch, as he created highlight after highlight, making everyone in the FPS know right away, before he even stepped foot on a pro server, that this transition from Overwatch wouldn't slow him down a bit. And on May 4th, he played his first pro game in the T1 Invitational. And while this tournament and a lot of other early Invitational matches were lost due to lack of full VODs, with only the best highlights left over. And honestly, a lot of those were Sinatraa, but what really made his clips stand out was that he was being a pivotal part of the team as a Sova player, much different than the other early superstars that were sprouting up, dominating on the duelist role. On Sova, he was able to marry his surprisingly great aim with his ability to use util effectively to support his team, being more than a walking gun, really showing what makes ex-Overwatch pros interesting in this hero shooter. He of course also lit it up as a duelist when his team wanted more firepower, as the meta early on could carry 2 or maybe even 3 duelists on some maps, which gave Sentinels a powerful 3-headed dragon that couldn't be stopped in these early invitationals against top orgs, with them winning 5 different grand finals, putting them as the #1 ranked team in North America, leading up to the regional First Strike event, which would be the grand finale of the first year of Pro Valorant. And his stats leading up to this event were already one of the best. He could get it done on both Sova as well as Reyna, Raze, and Jett, as he was able to pick up 3 first kills a map, with his best being 16 in a blowout win against Immortals. So going into the open qualifiers of the NA First Strike event, all eyes were on Sinatraa and Sentinels, as fans expected nothing less than a victory. So could they live up to it all? Well, in the open qualifiers, Sinatraa and the team were able to take care of business, only losing the Gen G in a match that didn't really matter. And Sinatraa continued to be the best one out there, with a 238 ACS, just a little below Subrosa and Wardell, while picking up a 1.1 KD on 4 different agents. But he would need to continue this performance along with Shahzam and Sick to win it all and end the season as the undisputed champions in the main event of First Strike, where the best of the region would be competing. They were first matched up against a FaZe team that was chock full of talent, with future Sentinels coach Ruckus playing with Baby Bay, Marv, and Corey. So it looked like it was going to be a close game, but that's when Sinatraa dominated as he picked up 5 first kills on Phoenix, with him and Shahzam putting the team on their backs to run away with the map in the second half. On their pick a split, the whole team had woken up as Sinatraa didn't need to be the main focus, as they won 13-5 to sweep FaZe and move on to the semi-finals, 1 match away from competing for the trophy and title of Best in America. But one team was in their way. The very first iteration of 100 Thieves, with Steel as IGL and NACS legends Hiko and Nitro looking to resurrect their FPS careers in Valorant, along with rising star Asuna, who's also in the early conversation as one of the best players in the region. This would be the first real test for both the players and teams, feeling like the true grand finals of the tournament. And right away, it was neck and neck, until the second half where 100 Thieves pushed Sentinels within 2 of taking the map at 11-8. But this is when Sinatraa and Sentinels started to look world class, with him pulling off such dynamic plays with Rays as him and Zombs pulled them back into the game after having such a rough start, forcing an overtime. But in overtime, 100 Thieves were able to take advantage of some of Sentinels' mistakes, leading to a close win to pick up Sentinels' map pick and put them on the back foot, one map loss away from disappointment. And while they went down 9-6 after losing the second pistol round, Shahzam carried the team with great intriguing on Jet to win 7 straight attacking rounds to force a final deciding map. But with Sinatraa having such a poor map on Sova, they had to put him back on Phoenix again on Bind, to hopefully make more of an impact because it's clear he's needed if they want to survive. But really, it wasn't enough, as up against other top teams, it's clear that their team cohesion and comms aren't as great, as they make way too many hero play attempts, with Sinatraa or Shahzam trying to take 1v1 duels ahead of their team, not being able to make a positive impact, resulting in them losing 8 of the 12 attacking rounds to fall too far down to fight back on the defending side, ending their 2020 season with a 13-9 loss to place 3rd, with 100 Thieves taking home the trophy against TSM with ease, making it clear that Sinatraa and the rest of Sentinels were so close to winning it all if they could have just won a few key rounds. And while his stats weren't the best in the 2 matches he played in the main event, he was still a really great player, but didn't shine as much as he was expected to in these big moments. And while most people would think that this was his prime, as this is where he had his highest finish in a major event, he actually played better in his final real pro season in 2021, where he and the rest of the Sentinels just continued where they left off, with him being ranked a top 4 team going into the season. They blitzed their way through the new Challengers qualifiers to make the main event, where they gave their fans a scare, losing in the first match to fall down to elimination. But they were able to pull off an insane lower bracket run off the back of Sinatraa on Reyna, Rays, and Sova, pulling off a 255 ACS and 51 first kills to only 33 first deaths. They went on to win the event against Immortals in multiple blowout maps to qualify for Challengers Stage 2, where they yet again went on a little bit of a loser's bracket run to the grand finals, after losing against a pre-EA Envy team that saw FNS just outstratting them. Something that occasionally happened for Sentinels without a super experienced IGL or coach on the team. But still, Sinatraa and the rest of the 3-headed dragon brought their team to the grand finals, where they were unable to beat Envy again. But this performance of fighting through the lower bracket granted them a slot in the first ever regional masters, where the top 8 teams would battle it out to be crowned number 1. And while so far, they've always fallen short when it matters, Sinatraa and the rest of the team wanted to turn that narrative around and prove they were the best in North America. So the team got ready for the first ever Masters. But during that break, that's when the allegations against Sinatraa were released. I'm not going to touch on the allegations at all, but all you need to know is, if they're true, they would not only ruin his pro Valorant career, but most likely his life. So an investigation was started right away by Riot to determine the legitimacy of the claims, which resulted in Sinatraa having to become inactive from the Sentinels roster just 2 days before the start of the regional masters, requiring Sen to scramble for a replacement for their biggest star. Of course, the rest is history for Sentinels, as Cloud9 player Tens joined the team on loan, where they would not only dominate their competition to win the Masters, but also go on to win the first ever international Masters in Reykjavik, Iceland, to take the title as best player in Valorant for himself and legitimize both Sentinels as well as the NA region in the brand new esport. A fate that looked destined for Sinatraa only months prior, and after reportedly not cooperating with Riot's investigation, Sinatraa would be released from Sentinels in September, with him looking to be radioactive for orgs, fearful of picking him up even though he clearly had immense skill. And this would be how all his 2022 would go for him, as he just focused on streaming and becoming more of a personality on what I call the sheesh part of Valorant, getting jacked in the process. But in 2023, he decided to jump back into the VCT with a much less serious roster, with him playing with the NA Last Hope Prod, Marved, Zombs, and Apex star Dizzy on a team they called the Untamable Beasts. While it was an absolute mess with them flaming each other and messing around, they were able to get past their first couple of opponents, but were then sent down to elimination against Nearest Airport, in a heartbreaking map 3, where they had the lead 11-8 but let it slip. But they did escape elimination once, with Prod actually carrying his team into the next round, but ended up missing out on qualification for Split 1, losing to City Boys 0-2 in convincing fashion, with it clear that if they wanted to make it any further, they would actually have to take the matches a bit more serious. But it was obvious from the beginning that they were actually just doing it for fun and to entertain their streams, other than maybe Prod, who probably cared. Still, Sinatra's stats during this short open qualifier run were very impressive, with him picking up one of the highest ACSs from players that played more than 300 rounds, but also picking up an 80% cast, all while playing 6 different agents, making him the most versatile player in the event and still putting up top tier numbers. But either way with that loss, Sinatra's pro esports career has not resumed since, with him still not showing any indication of trying to break back into Valorant again, or return to Overwatch with the esport looking to regain some of the hype it had during his peak. Check out my last video like this one, where I went into the prime of Wardell to see if he was really as good as his fans really think. It's very similar to this video, so if you made it this far, then I know you'll like that one too. Also, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, because there's so many more old players and teams I want to take a deep dive on, so you won't want to miss out.